Hey gang, today we are looking at the steel wheel Modus and Cutjack. There's a bit of stuff that's happened with this knife in particular, but I'm just going to be looking at the two knives in general. So this is kind of a twofer review. Neither of these are my knife. My Modus came, and I guess I'll get it out of the way first up. My Modus came and I ordered it from Blades of Oz, like a reputable dealer. Anyway, it came and the steel just didn't hold up to much testing. I tried to get it to cut the rope, do my rope cut stuff that I do with my knives, and it just didn't do it very well. So, long story short, I've got another one coming from a viewer called Frank, who just sent it to me to say, hey man, test this one as well. So I did, and this one cut really, really well. So both of these are M390 steel wheels. Steel will do both of these knives in D2, and I believe the D2 ones are just on bronze phosphor bearings. These ones are on ball bearings. So these ones both have very, very nice actions. The differences between the two of them, well, there are actually some differences. They look fairly similar, I'll give them that. They more or less have the same handle. The Cutjack has slightly bigger dimension on the handle, ever so slightly. But really, if one fits you, the other one is probably going to fit you just as well. Both are G10 material on the handles, both have the same pocket clip and really the same sort of style of, really the back end of the knife's more or less identical, apart from just being slightly bigger on the Cutjack. There is also a mini Cutjack, which is probably the size about, here on the grand scale of things. With both you get a 3.5 inch blade. The cutting edges are about the same. The blade, the Cutjack has a slightly bigger one if you're including like the whole bit of metal that protrudes from the top of the handle there. The Modus, as you can see, does not have a forward finger choil. That's not enough of a forward finger choil, it is just more of a sharpening choil. If you put your finger on there and try and cut things, you sit on the edge there, so you don't do that. But the Cutjack, a little bit of extra blade there so you can loop your finger over here and have some detail work, as we love to say in the knife review videos. So, other differences are that the size in general of the Cutjack is just that slight bit bigger. Really just an extra tiny bit on the handle, probably an extra couple of millimeters on the handle, and an extra kind of maybe overall on the blade, maybe a centimeter. Really not much to it. And of course the blade shapes are different as well. The Modus is going for like a sheep's foot blade, which has a slight raise to the slight trail on the tip, but sheep's foot blade. The Cutjack, more traditional, clip or drop point blade. More of a drop, I guess. It's not particularly cloven off as much. So yeah, both of these are M390, and both of these exact knives have cut really, really well on the knife rope test that I do. So this one cut the rope 450 times, this one 425 times. As far as I'm happy to say, that's about the same. Like with an imprecise test like mine that just gives you a pretty good idea, I'd say those are ballpark enough to say, yep, all good. You get what you're saying on the box for sure. I still haven't heard back what the cause of mine was, but still will have been really, really good in terms of warranty and that sort of stuff. They are, I think, giving me a refund. They are having a look at the rest of the Cutjacks they have in stock still. No, sorry, the Moduses they have in stock still, and working it out from there. So I think they're just going to refund me. She asked for my PayPal email, so I sent that to her. So good on them, that's fine. They have shown an interest. They haven't been like certain other companies have been. YouTube reviewer, who cares? They're all idiots. Hey, even though we are mostly idiots, we still are the knife consumers and knife buyers spending our own money. So they've been good enough to recognize that, and good enough to humor me on my dumb little testing as well. So thanks, that's good. What do I like, what do I not like so much about the knives? Let's get to it. First of all, I like the size of the knife. This is about the perfect size for me. I'll show you some comparisons. So let's get in the Spyderco Para 3 in there. So they're both a little tiny bit bigger than the Para 3. Let's get the Kaiser T1 in there. Little tiny bit bigger than the T1, but really that ballpark is definitely there for sure. American Lawman by Cold Steel. Pretty much the same size. Just this is the size of knife that I most enjoy carrying. And a Spyderco Sage, pretty popular EDC choice from a lot of folks. Spyderco Sage is a fair bit smaller. In terms of weight on each, scale wise, let's go. So the Modus will be weighing 101 grams, then the Cutjack will be weighing 123 grams. Given that they're the same size, you can look inside to see where that weight is coming from. Another difference there, the Cutjack has stainless liners on the inside. They are drilled out on the non-lock side, so there are some big circles like one here, and one here, drilled out for a bit of lightness, but yeah, there's a whole extra liner. Whereas the Modus has one liner and it is recessed into the handle, so a little bit less weight there. And frankly, I'm not sure if you're going to be hard using either of these enough to be too worried about the durability. So you get a little bit extra G10 thickness on the Modus, a little bit less G10 thickness, but the stainless steel on the Cutjack. Supposedly, I guess that would make this a slightly more durable knife, but those are parameters that I don't really have the facilities to test. So there we go. But yeah, both of those are completely reasonable weights. I'm not a massive weight person, not too bothered, and they're just fine for me. Then another great thing about these knives is that they are quite thin across this way, and they're not too wide this way either. So you're not too bothered by having them in the pocket in terms of the dimensions that they're taking up. So I like that very much as well. Blade thicknesses, they are more or less the same. So you see the Cutjack actually looks like it's narrower than the Modus, but when it gets to the flat part, the Modus just starts at the flat point and the Cutjack has a swedge going down. So just to check it, we'll get the old calipers out and we'll have a bit of a look-see. So on the widest part there, it's reading 2.8 millimeters on the Cutjack, and on the Modus I can get right at the spine, yeah, 2.73, and these are the kind of cheaper calipers, so they're about similar. They're about similar in terms of thickness. So good, thin, slicey blades. I'm happy with both of those, really, no problems whatsoever. They come in a full flat grind with the slight, I guess you'd call it a saber grind, but it's a flat grind with then a slight sort of relief shoulder at the top of each one, which makes them really good for hooking into angled sharpening systems as well. So that's another really good thing. Another really good thing about both of these knives is them ergos on these handles. This is a unusual looking knife. I'll get to that later, but the handles really do fit hand very, very well. And believe me, I know, I've cut rope 450 times, 425 times with these knives in all sorts of odd grips. You adjust your grip all the time while you're doing it because it's not a pleasant task. These are pretty good knives to do that test with. No folding knife has been amazing, really. Like, it's never a pleasant job, but you really do get a handle of the ergos from doing that test, and both the Modus and the Cutjack do really, really well. In terms of handling, I guess if you're a choil person, then the Cutjack might be the one for you, because you can do that. You can get that material right up there and against your index finger, and great. To be honest, this Modus, the blade doesn't start so far from your index finger that you feel like you're back here like you do sometimes with other knives. So I'm pretty happy with it as well. So no problems at all. The ergonomics are both great on both of them. So there we go. So yeah, the blade performance paired with the ergonomics make these both just really, really excellent using knives. So something that you're maybe not going to be as concerned with how they look, but in terms of something that's in your hand and enjoyable to use for longer periods of time, both of these knives are excellent for that. But if you are more of a fiddler as well, you're going to be happy to know that both of these bearing system knives are very, very smooth. They both drop shut straight out of the box. Both of these were new when they got to me. Both have excellent action. The flipping is, every time, it really is on both of them. It's very well done in terms of the build quality and the execution of being a flipper knife. Another pretty good thing about these knives is that for what you're getting, the price is pretty reasonable. So you're getting an Italian-made knife, made with M390 steel, with ball bearings, with good action, with a pretty complete package there. Obviously, my Modus didn't come as it should have, and this is the second one that I've been through. I certainly won't shy away from that. But if you get a good one, if you get one that does, like either of these, work really, really well, then value-wise, I think it is definitely there. So very, very nice performer, very, very nice materials, and very, very nice to play with for the money, absolutely. In terms of things that I'm not super sold on with these knives, I don't like how they look. That's a very, very opinion-based thing. they don't quite do it for me in terms of the overall appearance. I don't think that they are nice looking knives, especially not this Modus with its olive drab green and black G10 backspacer. It just doesn't quite do it for me appearance wise. It's again like most Spydercos, they're not particularly good looking, but they fit the hand really well and they're comfortable to use, and they've got other things going for them, ergonomics and all that sort of thing. Steel Will are just kind of doing the same sort of thing with these, in my opinion. If you think these are great looking, then more power to you, but just in terms of, they remind me a little bit of that SE Zancudo that's just ugly, but you know, a pretty decent hand filling knife. They are just not quite there in terms of visual appeal, but it's such a small thing. Really, if you're after a knife that is all about visual appeal, then you're probably going to get yourself like a Kaiser T1 or something like that, or you know, a fancier zero tolerance, or something that looks really, really cool. These very much, I think they're made for the hand first and the eye second. Absolutely. The main thing that I am not in love with on these knives is the pocket clip. It is just riding really, really high, and I just think, again, this matters a bit more to me because it is the part that is always sticking out of your pocket. Just don't think they're very nice looking pocket clips. Just with the split down the middle. They're kind of big and silver. I just think they could have been a little bit more minimalistic. In the vein that I'm not the biggest fan of this Spyderco spoon clip either. It's very, very similar actually. Very, very similar. I prefer my clips to look like pen clips, so that's why I'm a big fan. Like, you know, some people roll their eyes at it, but I really am a real fan of the Spyderco wire clip because it is almost invisible when you've got a, you know, especially a darker pair of pants on, or people will just think, oh, that's a pen in the pocket. This is just a bit clippy, it looks a bit more like a clip of something else, which matters in Australia where, you know, if you are carrying a knife every day, you might want to be a bit less overt about it. So that's just something for me just to bring up. In terms of carrying in the pocket, it does go over the seam just fine. It's got a good generous amount of ramp. So it is functionally a fine pocket clip, a bit shallow on the carry side. I just would have preferred a deep carry clip on both of these knives. So that is that. But yeah, main knocks against the knife is obviously going to be my Modus experience where the knife came, whether it was just uncooked or something's going on with the steel on my first Modus. You can watch my extensive testing before. That was a bit of a roller coaster for me. I really hate when I get things that are not very well you know, finished or not very, you know, that don't perform. And then, because I'm a YouTube guy, I do a video about it. I don't relish when that happens, believe it or not. I would just wish everything would come and that it would all be great all the time, as we all do. So, but that is probably the main knock against this Modus, that happened. But from the comments, I've had a few people that have sort of, oh yeah, mine feels a bit like it's a bit soft. And then I've had a lot of other people saying, no, mine feels awesome. And a couple of other YouTubers have done their own sort of test and said, no, I tested it and it seems like it was in that ballpark of what M390 should be. So I don't think that's an endemic problem to all Moduses. I just think was my misfortune. But we'll wait to see what Steel Will says, of course. But overall, you've got two really strong user knives here. Pretty good value, really good materials, really well ground. So they are, you know, when they come, you might want to put a different edge on it. Like these have both got 17-degree sort of polished edges now, and that performs really, really well with that. From the factory, a little bit on the thicker side, but still not end of the world material, but it's yeah, probably something that once you've got it the way you like it, and most knife guys, you'll probably get your knife the way you like it, by you put your own edge on it and you loosen the pivot or whatever you do. Once you have it the way you like it, they're just really, really excellent user knives, and definitely up there with just honest users like the American Lawman and the Spyderco Paramilitary 3 or 2 or whatever. Just really, really good knives, well designed for the hand. A little bit on the ugly side, that's just my opinion. Clip's not my favorite, but action's great. The weight and the size is really good, low profile. Very, very few things to complain about with either your Modus or your Cutjack. Thanks very much, dudes. I'll catch you in the next video. Bye now.